One thing to add to this that maybe we haven't touched on at all, and that is B2B e-commerce. Let's go back to the buyer. Who's buying? And what are they buying? And you almost have to break down the B2B market, so to speak, in terms of, well, you have very specific production items, and then you have unplanned MRO, like get us out of a bind item that this doesn't go into production. This is to keep our facilities going. This is to, this is to keep the lights on.
So I'm going to introduce everyone. We're actually going to do high-level introductions with everyone individually over the next week in individual podcasts. You're going to get a chance to meet every one of our esteemed guests. But we have the master of podcasting, Mr. Jason Greenwood, the master of analogies, Jason Hein, part-time e-commerce expert and part-time homesteader, Sam Aldinger, formerly of Fastenal, and the master of Wisconsin cheese, Mr. J. Schneider. You guys get different names every week. So how's everybody doing today? Tell me what you're drinking. Let's go around the horn. Tell me what you're drinking.
Maker's Mark. Bourbon.
Maker's Mark. Bourbon. All right.
Woodford Reserve. Rye whiskey.
Sam's Woodford. Nice.
Happy Place, which is a local brew.
Based out of Milwaukee?
Yep.
Nice. Mr. Hein, what are you drinking?
Well, it's my birthday, but it is not even 3 o'clock in the afternoon here on the West Coast. So I am drinking some Cafe du Monde coffee and chicory because New Orleans is one of my favorite places from my youth, and my wife got me a can of this, and she hates chicory coffee, so this keeps her out of my stash.
What is chicory coffee?
So chicory is a root that in the South is sometimes historically it was added to coffee to kind of increase the volume to make it last longer. It does have a little bit more of kind of an earthy quality to it.
Smoky too, right? Like it's slightly smoky?
A little bit. Which is, it's interesting because my wife is the one who loves like mezcal, and like she's the drinker of the smoky alcohols. I cannot do that. But like she does not like the taste of chicory coffee. But
does chicory have caffeine, or is it just an additive to make the coffee go longer?
It's just an additive to make the coffee go longer. It does give it a certain flavor. I mean, like if you go to Cafe du Monde in New Orleans, which I suggest everybody does, but as with taking good care of your product content for your B2B e-commerce effort, no matter how many times I say people should do this, a lot of people still haven't actually gone and done it.
There's a lot of distractions in New Orleans.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
True. One or two, especially around that area. But it has a lot of good fond memories for me. So there you go.
Way to tie in B2B to your drink.
I love that.
That's amazing.
At the same time chastising
the whole industry. The entire industry.
Yep. Well, because
I am not drinking,
though, Justin. Like you and I have been yelling at the industry for the better part of 20 years to like finally start thinking about B2B e-commerce as something that just isn't that's that thing over there. We gave that to the founder's kid, or we let an intern handle it. Like, but you just can't do it anymore.
It's a real thing.
That's a good segue. I want to talk about what are some of the topics in 2025 in this group podcast that you guys want to tackle in this year.
I'm seeing a lot of traction with the merchants, sellers, suppliers, and vendors that I'm working with instead of sort of focusing on adoption through the lens of sort of just asking customers what they want or need, meeting customers where they already are. So a lot of my suppliers that I work with, they already have, their sales reps are already receiving messages on WhatsApp and Slack and Teams and emails and everything else, whether it's placing a quote request, whether it's placing an order, whether it's checking on a shipment, whether it's, lodging an RMA, whatever it might be. Their customers are already communicating with them on digital channels, but they're just not equipped to deal with their customers at scale in any form of automated way through those digital channels. So treating those channels as headless commerce channels is something that I'm seeing a lot of traction with. Vendors are getting religion around it, especially with AI. They're able to interpret those, they're able to take PDFs or screenshots or CSVs that are attached to a WhatsApp message and map it into the commerce system. They're able to take an attachment from an email and map that into the commerce system. They're able to, to meet customers where they are, so that the adoption hurdles are reduced dramatically. Instead of saying, okay, you go to our commerce platform and use that, it's like, well, what are the communication and transactional channels you're already communicating with your customers through today? And I'm seeing a lot more traction in that area than I have in the last 4 years. And there's brand new middleware technologies that are just coming to market right now. Motivate comes to mind, and that's all they're doing. That is their entire platform, is basically being the middleware through all these digital communication channels and converting those into transactional channels. And it's super cool to see because the adoption is automatic that way.
That's interesting, Jason, because that was Motivate was actually one of my placeholder in my mind, because sourcing functionality in general for the e-commerce is, everybody's used to perusing websites or just picking up the phone and calling, and the AI technology around just dumping in quotes essentially and turning that into a tangible opportunity for any distributor to quote and even potentially say, hey, we can fulfill this now. Motivate was huge on my list of upcoming companies that could, has a good runway if they keep going. And I'm really curious to see how that's gonna transpire.
Yeah, super exciting stuff. And it's happening everywhere, not just with standalone technologies, but building in these connectors within platforms like Oro and Better Commerce and other platforms that are making this AI sales agent effectively technology completely accessible, completely at no extra charge within the platform, completely native and out of the box. It's the tech is advancing super rapidly. Like even 6 months ago, this was just not really on too many people's radar. And now I keep hearing it almost every single B2B discussion I'm having now, this is coming up. So that is a topic that is getting serious traction in the marketplace right now, for sure.
Jay Schneider, what are some of the topics you're looking forward to in 2025 to talk about?
So obviously, tech selection and customer adoption are two that are close to me. I also have been very interested in what some of the specific applications for AI are going to be. The Oro one that Jason alluded to, I think some of the things they did last fall was really interesting. I'm really looking forward to seeing how that might come. And let's be honest, this wave is happening far faster than anything we've ever seen before, right? In terms of adoption, in terms of solutions. But what is it going to mean to search? What is it going to mean to a lot of these other things? So
tank the whole market this week.
Yeah.
One little announcement.
DeepSeek should have been called Deep Six.
one small little announcement about being able to do things cheaper, and the whole global energy and hardware and some software
AI
market
and AI
tanks.
You realize how tenuous it is.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think the only thing that didn't tank was like software as a service, software companies. Everything else, man, brutal. Mr. Hein, what kind of things do you want to talk about this year? You're not.
I think there's a lot of conversations to be had about the order in which companies are beginning their digital transformation, or even trying to accelerate their digital transformation. I think that we live in a society where technology is oftentimes marketed and sold as a solution for all of our problems, right? Whether it's pharmaceuticals, talk to your doctor about so-and-so. Whether it's all I need is a new car and my life gets better. All I need is a new phone and I'll be able to do, well, realistically, all the same stuff, just faster and for more money. But that mode of thinking in society in general, I think, has colored the way in which businesses are thinking through their strategy for how they're going to transform their business to digital. They're starting to think with the technologies. They're starting to say, oh, we need a new platform. Oh, you know what? We need a new PIM, or we need to re-platform our ERP. But they're doing that just because like some of the tactical things and the practical things that they're doing in their existing systems are hard. They're not starting with what are the things that we do as a business that make our customers love us? What are the things that we do that keep customers coming back to us? If you capture that and then look at what are the processes that we have in place to make those things happen, and who are the people that we have in place to run those processes, if you document all of that first and account for all of that in before you even start thinking about technology, you're going to set yourself up to be a much more successful business digitally, because you're going to be more successful at transitioning more about what makes you special into your digital self.
Love that.
That's the one thing. And then the other thing that I think we need to talk more about in a world where there are increasingly more and more marketplaces coming online, every month for different segments, a lot of them are very early, but I think that having a conversation about what are the things that you need to do to manage a marketplace where as your selection explodes exponentially, you don't run into the problem of, I've got everything in the world. It's the Indiana Jones warehouse at the end of Temple of Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? We got everything in the world in our warehouse, but God knows how to find it. You as a marketplace manager have to find a way to make your discovery process scale to match your selection. Because if you don't, congratulations, you're Amazon, where the only way any of your customers can find anything on your site is for your suppliers to pay money for additional marketing ads or sponsored ads, which, I mean, from Amazon's perspective, it's a great way to double dip on the revenue side. But from a customer experience perspective, it's horrible. It's horrible.
Can I jump in there real quick?
Go for it.
I just I had a quick question. Well, two things. First of all, being formerly from B2B media, I've often thought recently that marketplaces are a great opportunity for media companies to become relevant again, because they have content, they have audiences, they have audience data, they have a lot of things that could facilitate the launch of a marketplace. But I also feel like, does anybody else feel like the term B2B marketplace needs to be better defined? I feel like some of the quote unquote marketplaces out there these days are really almost like glorified RFP sites. You have buyers, you have sellers, you have things that are being transacted, but I don't consider those true marketplaces.
What is a true marketplace within B2B?
Well, and that's what I say. Does anybody else feel like it needs to be defined?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and I also think that there is multimodal marketplaces, and what that looks like
what
in the B2B.
What does multimodal mean?
So, which means that we can have first party marketplaces. We can have third party marketplaces. We can have hybrid marketplaces where they're first party and third party. And we have effectively what is dropship, right? And in B2B, dropship is exceptionally common. Most people think dropship only happens in the retail space, a retail e-commerce space, but it happens every single day in the B2B e-commerce space.
Sure.
And that, in many respects, is a marketplace-like model, even though they're the seller of record. But the order is routed effectively to the supplier and it's fulfilled directly. And so I think there are situations where, you know, and if we look at DC360 data, Forrester data, and everybody else, and some of it may be close, some of it may be way off base, but marketplaces are the number one revenue generator in B2B today. They're the fastest growing channel for B2B today, and they have been for the last like 3 years. So marketplaces can no longer be ignored. And, you know, places like Grainger have figured this out a long time ago, that if we want to really, truly monetize our traffic, and we truly want to monetize through endless aisle, we cannot carry every single one of these products. We can't even sell every single one of these products as a first party because it's just impossible. We just can't get the data in. We can't list it. We can't price it. We can't put all the transactions through our ERP. We just can't do it. And so sometimes in wholesale distribution in particular, they might have quote unquote, you know, 100,000 SKUs in stock at any given point in time, but they might have access to 1 million SKUs, 2 million SKUs plus. And really, in that environment, the only way you can go to market with that in a meaningful way is through a marketplace model. That's it. You can't do it yourself. It's impossible.
If you're going to do that, then Jason's point is extremely valid. How are you going to merchandise that? How are you going to display it? How are you going to have your customers find what you need? Because you don't have overhead in inventory. You don't have overhead in buildings. Your overhead has to go into the thought and design of everything about finding that product, period.
And
I mean, that makes or breaks the customer experience.
Yeah. If your customers can't find it, they can't buy it. And if they don't trust what you're showing them, they won't buy it. It's really that simple.
My definition for it is multiple sellers of the same SKU, potentially. If you have an environment where you can have multiple sellers of the same SKU, then to me, it's a marketplace. But there's some of these sites that don't have that. So they become glorified, you know, I don't know, first party e-commerce sites, and others are really, like I said, more, it seems designed for RFPs. So there is buyers and sellers, and there are a lot of different SKUs, but it's really designed to
so it's a bazaar, but not a marketplace.
Yeah, that's the way I look at it. I mean,
it's bizarre.
I think to me, I go back to the classic marketplace, right? I mean, if you're at the fish market or wherever you are, whatever marketplace model you want to talk about, you got to have multiple people selling the same thing. It's got to be highly accessible and dynamic, right?
I look at it as the difference between a marketplace and a distribution is that there's a separation between the items being sold and the offers being listed against those items. So there might be, for any product out there on your site, to your point, Jay, if there's more than one seller making an offer and saying, I have an offer on this, congratulations, you're a marketplace.
Right. That's my definition too. Yeah.
It's funny you say that, you know, the industry needs to define marketplace, because I actually think that's one of the things that we can do, like at the B2B EA can do. This whole industry is desperate in need of definitions of terminology. What does AI mean in the context of B2B e-commerce? Well, the argument could be made that yes, that includes LLMs and generative AI for text. Does it include generative AI for images? What about generative AI for CAD files? When's that going to happen? What about generative AI? Or
exploded drawings or MSDSs or...
Exactly. Well, MSDSs, there's a liability aspect there, which don't even get me started on that, Mr. Greenwood. But yeah, does it include just good old-fashioned machine learning, natural language capabilities? Like, we exist in a world where there are so many companies trying to get into this space, all trying to use the AI magic word to make themselves and their solutions look as though they're magic, when the companies and the practitioners need to be having very tactical, very practical, like, what is it that this thing can do for my business kinds of conversations. This is one of the things that I'm excited about us in this group having that conversation this year.
If I have one goal here, it's to define language, right? And to, I mean, that's the whole reason I build frameworks, is to define a language. I mean, frameworks is just like the process and the language to be able to talk about this stuff, right? And I would love, that's one thing I would love to come out of this, is start to define frameworks, and then the content that follows this, as we do blogs and white papers based off of this information, to take that and translate and start codifying that, that language into existence. I want to do something fun. So there's been a ton of kind of new people on LinkedIn. I feel like for 20 years, it was the same people. And now it looks like there's a bunch of people that have kind of popped up as writing and trying to build personal brand. And I have a couple fun guys. I'm curious as to if there's any new people out there you guys are interested in. There's two for me. One is Kyler Nixon. Kyler Nixon is based out of Wisconsin. Kyler's kind of independent consultant, worked in the kind of Granger world for one of the subsidiaries. And he is passionate on small, medium, really, really small distributors is kind of his focus. And so he's writing small distributors. He put out a really cool piece this week that was, how do you start, like, at what revenue bands do you have what type of employees? In the sales and marketing arena was really good. At least started a really good conversation. And he's also challenging me a lot on, he said something to me this past week. He's like, you talk about customer adoption. The problem is in the small market, it's all customer acquisition. Like, that's what they want to do. They want to grow. They don't want to, they're not trying to grow within their existing accounts. Of course they are, but they're trying to acquire new customers. And so we had this long, great conversation about adoption and acquisition related to business models and sizes. And he's a rock star. The next one for me is Nick Pericle. I don't know how you say his last name. Is it Pericles or Pericle? Nick Pericle. Nick's starting to focus on how do you do AI for distribution? That's his focus. AI, so personal use as an employee in a distributor, and then how do distributors use it? These guys are like writing every day. Both of them are writing every day, putting good stuff out. Nick's doing video plus content, kind of popped out of nowhere, that we met last year. And I'm excited to see what those guys are doing. And you guys know anybody else that you're following that you're excited to see?
Yep. So I had those two on my list as well. And I have flagged both of those as show all on LinkedIn. Show all their posts, because I was actually really enjoying their content. There was a couple of additional people in the last sort of month that I've added to my show all list too. One is Julian Wallace from Intuji. I recently had him on my podcast, but he's putting out some absolute banger content around B2B, and he's producing, significant pieces of work like 2-3 times a week. Really enjoying his content, really enjoying his outside the box thinking. The other one that I've been following for some time, but she has seriously ramped up her output, is Chris Harrington from eQuick360. She is, and she's also started her own podcast with 2 female co-hosts. It's called A Broadcast for Manufacturers, Broad, BROAD. She's putting out some absolute banger content, and she's producing content from many industry specific heavy duty conferences, and she's putting out content like multiple times a week, and I really enjoy her content. And she is, specifically from a manufacturing standpoint, she's probably the most prolific content producer from the trenches of manufacturing that I've seen in a long while. Really enjoying her. And then Jeff Mikos, who's from McFadyen Digital, again, he has only just recently really started to pump out content. And I've been very impressed. You know, obviously McFadyen has been big in the B2B marketplace space for many years, but they're now branching out and getting more into heavy duty enterprise B2B e-commerce outside of marketplaces. And his content also very thought provoking. I very intentionally follow every single post he makes, and I try to support him by commenting on his posts as well. So those have been the ones that have been standouts to me over the last, say, 6 months.
Sam, are you a LinkedIn guy?
I'm a weak LinkedIn guy. I follow
You're a
Jason
weak
Greenwood and Jason Hein and Justin King and no. Honestly, I don't find much time for social media. It is probably my weakest area.
I don't know if it's a weakness or not.
I'm a conversationalist. And so most of the time, if I find a company, oftentimes what I like to do is I just go down the rabbit hole of digging into the companies that post stuff. Just all right, what do they offer? That's where the folks like just the good standbys like Blue Meteor. I mean, Allison Taft does a good job, posting a lot of relevant stuff, but she's also just life lessons. She does a really good job just bringing in just how life and business actually relate to each other. So she does a good job. I'd give her a shout out because I always am impressed by with the content she puts out. But for me, if I find a good company, I pick up the phone and call them, or I DM them, and then we get on a phone call. And I don't spend a lot of time reading what they put out. And Jason, I'm going to take your suggestions and really study and see what I can glean from that content that's put out. But I like to converse. I'm not going to spend that time scrolling through a bunch of social media. I'm going to pick up the phone and talk to somebody.
I like it. The real personal social media. I like it.
That's the farmer in me.
That's the farmer.
I like to sit around and chew our hay and talk.
By the way, Blue Meteor, I'm trying to convince Sarah King to start writing some stuff on social media, but that girl that won't do it yet. We'll get her on one day.
Parenting did she come out of?
Nepo baby.
Yeah, no kidding.
Just kids these days.
Just pure nepotism over there.
Yep.
Jay Schneider, anybody you're excited to follow right now?
So I did have Kyler as well. He's I think over in Madison. I think we traded comments here a week or so back. I think the next time I'm over there, we'll grab a cup of coffee. But outside of that, I've actually.
Are you going to talk about cheese? Are you going to talk about cheese?
We could.
Yeah.
Talk about cheese and beer. I've also been following a couple of the folks from over the pond, Ben and Claire Adams. I don't know if they're related or not, but some good product data content. So
they're almost married.
Are they almost married? Okay, I don't know them personally, so but there's been some good posts that I've followed and commented on and such. So
excellent. Well, we're gonna link all these guys in the show notes too.
Yeah.
Jason Hein, anybody on your list?
So I'm going to go a little outside of the norm. So one of the persons who I have a ton of respect for what she's done. Her area of focus is on like the engagement, SEO, SEM, mobile messaging, email marketing space. She has a huge depth of experience there. Her name is Stephanie Griffith. She's recently started her kind of own solo journey into this space. I worked with her briefly in a previous company and always just thought she was very, very gifted, not only in terms of what she understands about how to go to market from like a mobile and messaging perspective, which I think is a realm that most B2B companies do not think about enough. But certainly in particular verticals, think about like plumbing, HVAC, electrical, where I'm doing a lot of work with individual, buyers in a truck who are going from site to site to site and who need things on the run. Mobile is a place that could have a lot of opportunity. And Stephanie has a lot of she thinks about what's around the corner. And I think she's worth a follow. And then somebody else who's been starting to do a lot more posting lately is a woman by the name of Kara Babb, Kara Babb. So she used to work at Amazon, did some work running Amazon campaigns for a number of big brands, and she's kind of started doing some of her own things. But she just posted a post this morning on marketing for B2B, and she had a lot of really good insights. So, she has that sort of marketing brand management side, because I think this is something that it's easy for us B2B folks to look at other people who are talking about B2B, and we can get a little bit too comfortable that, like, the people that we know are smart. But there's also something to be said about the people who are really thought leaders in the B2C space, provided they can contextualize what they're talking about in a way that applies to our business. It never hurts to get a little uncomfortable with the topic if we can learn something that we can apply to our business and for our customers and our clients.
I found that to be the case with customer data. B2C is way ahead of us on that. And
it's nice when one customer has only one email address.
Right.
It's really convenient.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, one customer, one account. That's pretty straightforward.
So you bring up the contextualization of it, and that's it's so true, because even the tools aren't really there yet. So there's a lot to be learned, and a lot that's going to happen yet to come. So
I think that's a great point, Jay. I think especially on the email marketing side, the technologies out there that work for B2B, where you have this roll up concept of, hey, there's 5 people in the maintenance department, but I need to market to the whole department, not just the one person who happens to have a brand affinity for me. How do we knit those 5 together to become that's the customer I'm marketing to? There's a lot of fabulous email marketing platforms out there, but not a lot of them are able to satisfy that use case.
That boils down to a really good customer MDM model and a good CRM. I mean, that's where the B2B opportunity is how well do you define your customer, and what are you putting in
modern
place?
CDPs can't do it.
No,
right, correct.
Well,
that's why I bring it up.
Well, the B2B, like, you think about it, B2B companies have a secret weapon that 99.999% of consumer companies would kill for, which is the outside salesperson. They have an employee who literally, can you imagine if you were like Apple or Best Buy, and you could send somebody into the home of your customers to look at, hey, what are they using? What are they buying? What kind of problems are they having? And then come back and, like, take notes and type all that into your CRM. Oh my God.
It's called Alexa.
It would be
right.
Well, fair point, Sam. I got you. That's a good one. But, like, every major, and even minor, even the small B2B distribution companies and manufacturers reps have outside salespeople who are going and literally having one-on-one conversations with your customer. I mean, that's just a cheat code that's worth millions of dollars if it's done
just
right.
Gold. I want to address one piece of news here in this first episode with the group, and that is, it was a press release that came out that basically said the B2B e-commerce platform market is expected to grow from $12.8 billion in 2024 to $29.3 billion by 2032. So in the next 8 years, about 10, almost 11% growth, cumulative growth. I mean, just an incredible forecast. I want your guys' opinion. Are you guys seeing this type of activity as we go into 2025? E-commerce re-platforms, brand new platforms, redoing it. What are you guys seeing across the people that you guys are working with?
Absolutely. I mean, to me, it's a little bit of smoke and mirrors. This is not about new sales growth as much as it is the how of your current sales activity, and how are you addressing your customer? how are you connecting with them? How are you bringing value in the ordering process and the fulfillment and all the value add digitally? So it's going to grow, but that's likely not like market growth as much as it is, we're upgrading our swords and spears to AR-15s or
lasers.
To lasers.
lasers.
Yes. We're going super Star Destroyer on you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think the market, however, having said that, there's like 30 to 35 major either solely B2B or B2B focused e-com platforms out there that I've worked with or been exposed to or done demos of over the last few years. And I think the B2B market is going to be one of consolidation over the next few years. We're already starting to see it in the B2B agency space. We famously saw Zalab acquire Trellis at the end of last year. There just isn't enough talent to go around in our world right now. So there's a lot of acqui-hiring going on right now. And I expect there to be much more consolidation to happen in the B2B agency space over the next couple of years. And I expect there to be incredible consolidation in the B2B platform space over the next couple of years. Not everybody's going to win. Shopify's largely won the war for the B2C and D2C e-commerce space. And I expect there to be 5 winners probably over the next couple of years in the B2B e-commerce platform space. And then outside of that, maybe some vertical specific winners like Equip 360 in the heavy duty space, Chris Harrington. There will be some regional and there will be some vertical specific winners that really tailor their platform for very, very specific use cases. But outside of that, in terms of generalist B2B e-commerce platforms, we're not going to have 2 years from now, 3 years from now, there ain't going to be 30. There ain't going to be 40. There ain't going to be 50. There's going to be like 5. And so there's going to be consolidation, and it's going to get ugly because there is tremendous overlap in commerce functionality today. And I read a statistic, it's about a year ago, that it costs from scratch, it costs about $200 million to build e-commerce platform from scratch, whether that's B2C, D2C, or B2B. That's about the investments required. Now with AI today and co-pilots and everything else, let's call it half that. Even if it was half, even if it was 100 million or 50 million, it's still a big expense, and it doesn't happen overnight. And the reality is there's just not enough market share to go around to support 30, 35 platforms. It's just not going to continue the way that it is today. That's my opinion right now.
Do you think there's going to be an additional layer essentially that gets added to the market, a below industrial distribution that is basically it's all not then going to be like a service plus, like the service on top of the B2B, where all of the transactions are happening and consolidating. I agree with your point on like more and more is going to get going to these best in class marketplaces, whatever you want to call it. But then you're going to have can't get rid of the cost, the service aspect. Customers still require the complexity and value around service, and there's going to be a layer then above that. That's almost, again, like you've got integrators out there and people that, where the buying experience is direct from, customer to manufacturer, but then you've got integrators that do, the cost plus all the supply chain management piece. I'll be curious to see how that plays out.
To your point, I've had over the last 12 months, I've had 3 separate end-to-end wholesale supply chain management platform vendors on my podcast. And what they are trying to do, they're not an e-commerce platform as such. They are a data play, and they are trying to unify the supply chain all the way from down at the retail layer, if there is one for those products, all the way up to the manufacturer. And they are trying to flow data on sales from the retail, the wholesale distribution, all the way up to the manufacturer. And they're trying to unify the inventory sets that are out there in the market, are out there in wholesale distribution land, all the way up to the manufacturer, so that they can effectively set up their manufacturing capability and scale to match the market demands as they fluctuate, so that they know exactly what's in market at any given point in time. So they know exactly what's held with their independent distributors. They know exactly what's held at retail, and they know, okay, cool, well, sales are speeding up of this SKU. Cool, we need to make more of it. Cool, sales are slowing down of this SKU. Cool, we need to slow down our production schedule of this SKU, so that they're getting much closer to just-in-time manufacturing, not just-in-time shipping or just-in-time distribution, but just-in-time manufacturing to make sure that their distributors, wholesale distribution layer never runs out of inventory, and that their retail layer, if there is one, never runs out of inventory. Unifying that through a standardized data layer with data sharing, and there's obvious benefits to everybody along that chain, in terms of efficiency and through auto replenishment. It's a big deal right now, and it's getting a lot of airtime in the wholesale distribution space in particular.
Yeah, it's all visibility.
Yeah,
transparency.
Yep.
Jay Schneider, do you agree with the things that are going to consolidate, as Jason said?
Not in the same way anyway. So what the statistic says to me is that we're going to see some pretty significant growth in platforms. I think Shopify's entrance into B2B and their interest in B2B is defining, I think, in a lot of ways. And I think what I sort of believe is that there's going to become a B2B light, if you will, in this space. And I have had this thought for a while that, we're nearing this kind of tipping point in B2B. And particularly when I look at distribution, I think there could potentially be new entrants to the marketplace, people that are non-physical branch distributors, right? I think Shopify and some other tools are going to be solid players in a space like that. But B2B is very different, and there's a lot of pockets to it. And when I look at what the B2B functionality, do I think there'll be consolidation? I do think there will be some. But I think, in fact, I actually think there's room for new entrants. There's some new entrants right now that we've been talking to that I think have some very interesting prospects in B2B. But most of the B2B platforms that you see right now, the mainstream ones, are starting to double down on certain things, right? They're starting to double down on certain specific areas of B2B, if you will. So whether that's workflows or whether that's reporting, just very specific things. And I don't see that changing. And I think because the B2B licenses are bigger, I think that there is a model more like ERP where not all of the players necessarily have to go away, even though there will still be entrances like Shopify and in this short term or for the next 8 years or whatever it is, the tide will rise all boats, I guess.
Where do you fall on this pendulum, Mr. Hein?
So I'm a consultant, so my job is to say it depends. Here's the thing: you always got. So one of the things that we do as consultants and coaches, right, is we help our clients understand the dimensions they aren't accounting for. We may have a customer who right now is just subject to one-dimensional thinking. We're trying to help them understand there is actually two dimensions. If they're in two-dimensional thinking, they're thinking, there's a third dimension. And the thing that we have to acknowledge about the market for e-commerce platforms right now is that the market for e-commerce platform really got where it is because it was trying to serve a market of companies that were kind of all in that very, very early stage of digital maturity, who were like, how many B2B web shops got set up in 2020 because of the pandemic in a panic? Like, oh crap, what can we, Wix? Yeah, I heard an ad for it on NPR. Let's go and use that. Like this sort of
who are you representing right there?
Jason Greenwood.
Yeah, Jason Greenwood. Yes, exactly. The the owner of a small distribution company who was like, crap, my outside salespeople can't get in to visit customers. The only way we're going to be able to do this now is online. Throw up something and get it done, right? So, but now it's been 5 years later. you have a lot of those small to mid-sized companies, have sort of, they figured out how to ride the bike. Maybe they've taken the training wheels off. Maybe they're using pneumatic tires instead of the solid rubber tires. You don't necessarily, I don't know about you guys, but I don't have the bike that I learned to ride a bike on. I need a very different bicycle now because I'm a grown man who likes a more comfortable seat, and I'm not 3 foot tall anymore. Our customers are in the same place. And so one of the things I think that we're seeing is Shopify is coming in, and because of their experience with making the setting up of shops very, very simple for B2C, they have a unique position. They have a unique value proposition. If they can make it translate to B2B and the complexities and nuances of that business, they're going to be well positioned. But that doesn't mean that there's a whole lot of people now, as opposed to the beginning of the marathon, everybody's all bunched together, everybody's in the same place. Now we're starting to see companies spread out, and you're starting to see companies that, like, some distributors have, like, a big part of their business is service and shipping products with certifications. And it's got to meet all this paperwork because I'm selling this into the food, like a meat processing plant or a nuclear industry. So I have all this additional value that I bring in addition to just the products, the certifications and the validations of
installation, project management, scoping, all that stuff.
Right. All of this stuff. So I think I think that, Jason, your point, within that early stage, yes, there's going to be absolute consolidation. But I do think that there is room for specialization as these niches by companies that are either much more advanced or maybe even less advanced,
right,
become more visible. Those are going to be where the opportunities are going to be for, the TikTok to Shopify's Facebook.
Jay, sorry to interrupt you. I think to your point, because you made a very valid point, Jay, before Jason spoke, which was, what does the market look like over the next, say, 1 to 5 years in terms of market opportunity? What does that expansion look like, and where do we think we're going to see the market expansion come from and originate from? And through my lens right now, it is D2C brands that have gotten wholesale religion, and specifically strategic wholesale religion. We have seen Nike regain wholesale religion. We have seen Allbirds just about go out of business and throw the Hail Mary pass to wholesale, particularly in Europe, where they've appointed a lead distributor for Europe. And actually, whereas even a year ago, probably 80 to 90% of my business was working with pure play B2B manufacturers and distributors, I'm now getting more inquiries from D2C brands going, hey, we need to be doing some wholesale distribution here. Otherwise, we're going to, CAC is rising through the roof for D2Cs. They can't get into all the markets, no matter how much money they have to spend. Capital isn't free anymore. So a retail store expansion is not on the cards for them, et cetera, et cetera. And the number of D2C brands that have come to me and said, Jace, I've listened to a few of your podcasts. I've watched a few of your videos. I've read a few of your LinkedIn posts, and we know we need to think about this distribution thing. We know we need to think about this wholesale thing, but we're essentially a marketing company, and we have no idea. We don't even know where to begin with wholesale. What the hell do we do? What tech do we need? Do we need salespeople? Where do we even start with this? Because we're effectively a really, really good branding and marketing company right now, and it's a whole new set of skills that they need to do even strategic wholesale. And so I think, to your point, Jay, when you say the market is going to grow, and so therefore the pie is going to grow, and so therefore there'll be more service providers to service that growing pie, I think a significant slice of that pie is D2Cs getting wholesale religion.
I think this is one of the things, if we want to talk about Shopify for a second, this is one of the things that I think is really interesting. And I'll be interested to see how all this plays out. If you look at Shopify and where they're at today, and particularly, maybe even where they're going to be in 12 to 18 months, again, I think of this kind of B2B light model. I think it's going to be interesting to see Shopify is going to have to, Shopify's model, let's be honest. So like 0.3% of Shopify's installations are Shopify Plus, right? Overwhelmingly, everything is less than that, right? Their engagement with B2B starts at Shopify Plus, right? Which is 36 grand. So it starts at 36 grand. So that's a very different model than what they're doing today. Even I would argue the 0.3% that are on Shopify Plus today probably started on something less than that on Shopify's platform. Shopify's done a great job at being able to take people and move them all the way up the chain without significant upgrade costs and all that stuff. I mean, kudos to them for all that. But now having to sell a $36,000 license is a lot different than a $19.99 a month, so you're not going to win B2B with a 14-day free trial, right? I think can we all agree on that? So I think that's going to be interesting, but Shopify's entrance brings about something that I think is very interesting. And that is when you see digital disruption, what oftentimes happens is new entrants to a marketplace. So where do those new entrants come from? I think very clearly they could come from D2C starting to move into B2B and starting to take over wholesale or other places. I think that the opportunity for people to start up new businesses that are distributors that may not have, branch locations and may not do, local service or something like that. I think those things could be in the works, and some of these platforms like Shopify might be a good fit for that. So I think it's going to be interesting to watch and see how this all plays out for Shopify and the other B2B light players, if you will.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's.
I have one thing to add to this that maybe we haven't touched on at all, and that is B2B eCommerce. Let's go back to the buyer. Who's buying? And what are they buying? And you almost have to break down the B2B market, so to speak, in terms of, well, you have very specific production items, and then you have unplanned MRO, like get us out of a bind item that this doesn't go into production. This is to keep our facilities going. This is to keep the lights on. But those are two very different buying behaviors, and in most companies it's two different buyers, quite honestly. And so how the one buyer for production versus how they buy and the avenues they buy and what they expect out of their buying experience is totally different than the maintenance guy who there's a machine down, he needs a component, or just the facility needs to be safe for their employees. Those are very different buying experiences. So we can
products versus commodities.
Yeah, right? I mean, and so you're talking two very different spectrums of buying, and you can't lump them as B2B, so to speak. It is B2B, but those channels and how you buy are very different. And so personally, I think that the maintenance guy and people over here, that's going to be very commodity driven. It is, I need a cleaner. I need Jansan equipment or Jansan materials, and I need to be clean. And I just want quality, service, price. Give me the best of those three. Where the production guy is saying, you got to go through engineering. And I just need to make sure that you've got this planned, and what value are you bringing into my production cycle? That those are, again, so everything we just said is very legitimate, but where that's going to happen in the buying. So look at your customer, essentially. What are they doing? Are they on this side or are they on this side? And that tells you a lot more of where the e-commerce play is going to be. It's not that they won't affect both, but your e-commerce play of, I need something quick, I need something now, and it doesn't even have to be the same brand of cleaner that I normally buy. I just need something to get. That's going to be your aggressive D2C type stuff in my mind that is going to be potentially taken by storm from Shopify or whatever. But your production stuff, that's a whole different game. And so what is the breakdown in the market between those two? That's going to tell you a lot of, and again, it all depends on industry, but that's going to tell you a lot of where the e-commerce play comes into the buying behaviors.
It's amazing how quickly the dynamic for procurement changes. When you have a line down, you're losing $25,000 an hour.
Right.
Suddenly, the cost of that replacement motor becomes a non-issue. Like I had companies I worked for where the customer would call in that situation, and I was a marketing manager. I had to go get in my car, drive up to my supplier who was like 30 miles away, pick up a couple of glass colored, light covers, and then bring them back, hand them to the guy on my shipping dock so that he could send them off to Las Vegas to be used in the shoot of Ocean's 11. And so
people aren't worried about price in that scenario, are they? They're not shopping around. They're going, who has it and how fast can they freaking get it to me?
Because
visibility,
I'm
transparency.
George Clooney to be on site is costing me like tens of thousands.
It's a great
of dollars.
movie, right?
Oh, it's a fantastic movie, and I helped. So it's all my fault.
Thank you.
You're welcome, America.
On that note of Ocean's 11, we'll wrap up. One of the things I'm looking forward to the most, guys, is when the next wave comes out and we get to address the wave with these opinions.
Oh boy.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to new research that we agree and disagree with. Thanks all for being here.